following is a special presentation of ABC Sports.
Yesterday, the first day of time trials for the Indianapolis 500. A fast-moving storm closed the track early. Only 12 drivers had qualified by then, and those 12 names did not include last year's champion or pole sitter. The storm ended the hopes of a pole for Arie Luyendyk and Emerson Fittipaldi. The day had begun hopeful when A.J. Foyt, back from severe injury suffered last fall, turned 222.4 miles an hour. He was choked with emotion after qualifying for his 34th Indianapolis 500.
It's nothing big.
It's something big. You look pretty upset. It's a getting to you, isn't it?
No, not really.
Paul, I think his eyes tell you differently.
Little did A.J. know that he would hold the pole position for much of the day, and at 56 years old, end up in the middle of the front row. Next on the track, Randy Lewis, who wouldn't make it into the field at all. He walked away unhurt from this crash in turn one, but it ended his attempt to qualify on the first day. Rick Mears was luckier. 24 hours earlier during practice, he had crashed in almost the same place as Lewis. So when he came out to qualify yesterday, it was in his backup car. Still, Mears turned the fastest laps of the day, and at 10 minutes to 1, the pole position was his. By then, the track surface was getting hot. Drivers and teams were hesitant to qualify in the heat, knowing that a cooler track meant faster times. Emerson Fittipaldi turned 3 quick laps at 222.8 miles an hour. Then car owner Roger Penske waved him off. They would take the gamble to wait until the track cooled. Other drivers pulled out of line. No one wanted to run in the heat. And then, it was too late for anyone to run at all. At 5:46 p.m., the track was officially closed. Rick Mears was on the pole for the 6th time in his Indy career. A.J. Foyt next to him. Luyendyk, Fittipaldi, and much of the rest of the field would have to wait until today. On this, the second day of time trials at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the weatherman has played a role. There have been some qualifications, and we're going to have all of the action for you from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Hello and welcome back. I'm Paul Page with Bobby Unser and Sam Posey. Sam, there's a tremendous effect to the metabolism of this track when we have a day like today.
Well, it's very hard to generate that kind of qualifying day tension and excitement that a driver loves, basically thrives on. Look at today. No matter what you do, you can't run for the pole. That's officially over. So whatever you do in the car, no matter how fast you go, it's really a footnote to history. Hardly any crowd here. It's a very different atmosphere. But get in the car and drive fast, you must. And that's where the professionalism comes in for the drivers.
You saw it here just a few moments ago. Bernard Jourdain qualified into the field. The track is now open for practice, and there are people taking advantage of that. Bobby Unser, the kind of impact these days are making.
Well, first place, it was hot yesterday, and it was muggy. And, of course, it rained all night, so the track is a different racetrack today, totally different. Now, this morning, it was kind of muggy, you know, like a lot of humidity, but there isn't any of that going on now. The track is good. It's clean. And I'm going to tell you something, Paul, it's fast. There's been 9 cars that have qualified. We've seen some good speed today. I think it's just a fabulous time. The guys that don't get it today are missing a good chance.
All right, let's begin to look at this day as it has occurred here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It started during the practice this morning when Dominic Dobson slammed his car into the 4th turn wall, and like other accidents we have seen earlier this month, into the inside wall, coming to a rest at the head of the pit area. The good news on this one is that the damage on that car wasn't nearly as severe as some we've seen. We take a second look at this situation. He got into the wall a little bit earlier than, say, Mark Dismore did on Friday, and the car, again, did its job well. The condition report initially given was that Dominic Dobson had a broken femur, and, of course, that set everybody's apprehension to work, but it turned out that it was not nearly as serious as we thought.
Dominic Dobson back at the racetrack. Dominic, a tough adventure earlier in the day. What did happen?
Well, we just made a little change, Gary, to the Kroger Coors car, and we'd had a little bit of push in 4, and just made a slight change. Went back out, and it was really wasn't up to speed. Coming into 4, the car just got loose and got away from me, which was a bit surprising because of the way the car had been handling before. And of course, once it starts to get away from me here, it's very tough. And I hit the outside wall and came back, and was actually very lucky I didn't hit too hard.
And of course, the significant question now: will you be able to drive again yet this month?
Well, I think so. I'm supposed to go back, and of course Terry Trammell, the guys here at Methodist, did a great job, looked me over and said if I can clear the X-ray on Wednesday, I can get back out, hopefully on Thursday.
So Dominic Dobson hopes to be back in a race car, while Al Unser Jr. has begun practicing for the 500-mile race coming up in 2 weeks. And coming up on ABC Sports, our auto racing coverage continues as 1991's undefeated Formula One driver Ayrton Senna goes for his 4th straight victory and his 3rd consecutive Grand Prix of Monaco title. We'll have same-day coverage beginning next on ABC Sports.
The Indianapolis 500 Time Trials. Brought to you by Miller Genuine Draft. Cold filtered for real draft taste. So get out of the old, get into the cold. And by Goodyear, the unanimous choice of every single team trying to qualify for the Indianapolis 500.
I'm Gary Gerald. We're back in one of the production trailers here in our television compound. The elements forcing us inside for a few minutes a bit earlier. And one of the great stories of this day, the top qualifying effort today, faster than Rick Mears' pole run yesterday, belongs to Gary Bentenhausen, now qualified for his 19th Indianapolis 500. Gary and the family have joined us. The qualification run is on the screen. Gary Bentenhausen, this has to be one of the great days in the fabled Bentenhausen name history.
Well, Gary, without a doubt, it's the happiest day that I've had here since I led the race in 1972, and I think I might even be a little bit happier because I was driving for Roger Penske at that time, and it was kind of expected of you.
After the disappointment of not getting to run for the pole yesterday, were there any concerns or any things on your mind today as you got set, knowing that you could start no better than 13th?
Well, no, I discussed it this morning with my wife and said, you know, 13 seems to be my lucky number, and if we can start 13th, maybe good things will happen on race day.
Were there any differences in the setup of the race car as you're now into your 2nd qualifying lap today, and you started out hot. You were running right there at better than 2:23 on the first lap.
Yes, I was surprised this morning when I went out and practiced. The racetrack wasn't near as good as I thought it was going to be after the rain and the cool weather that we had last night. And the traction and the grip was still down quite a bit from what I thought it would be. So what we did is we took some more rear wing out of it and put some more front wing in it just before I went out to qualify.
And that was designed to get you more grip or a better hold of the racing surface?
Yes, to take a little bit of traction away from the rear tires and put a little more on the front so the car would turn. In other words, so that it wouldn't push is what we call it.
So many times we talk about these changes, but they're minute changes, and yet they have a tremendous impact on how fast you can or cannot go.
Yes, it's unbelievable. When you run around this racetrack at full throttle all the time, if the car's got just a little bit of push in it, what it'll do is it'll drag the engine down about 100 RPMs through the corner because you're actually scrubbing the front tires. They're trying to slip, and it just bogs the engine down, which consequently you never get back all the way down the straightaway. Once you lose 100 RPM, you can't get them back.
Now, as you can come toward the conclusion of this qualifying run, did you have any inkling that you might have a faster time than Rick Mears?
No, I really didn't, because on the first lap, my crew gave me a 2:23, and when we went out to qualify, I talked with John Menard this morning, and he said, look, we've got to get these cars in the show today. Let's just go out and have a conservative run. And they gave me a 2:23, and the ride was very comfortable, and I had no idea that I was running that fast.
It was a terrific qualifying effort, to say the least. Gary Bentenhausen, for the moment, is the fastest in the field. Paul?
On Gary Gerald, during that qualification run, as we take a look at the Valvoline qualification summary, he averaged 224.4 miles an hour down the home stretch at 232 miles an hour. And of course, when he rolled in, everyone was cheering for Gary Bentenhausen. Of course, he rolled to a stop then and was greeted by this giant crowd and also by our Jackaroo.
Gary, congratulations. A day late, but you're still the fastest car in the field thus far.
Well, yes, I wish it had been yesterday because, believe me, Jack, we didn't even really try too hard today. We had a little bit left. We left the car comfortable with a little push in it because we just wanted to get in the race, and I wish it was yesterday.
Some mixed emotions, though. A fact that maybe you remember or don't remember. 30 years ago today, you lost your father.
Yes, I know. My wife and I talked about that on the way in. But it's a better day today.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What a marvelous story, that of Gary Bentonhausen here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Now, throughout our coverage, you're hearing us talk about boost and pop-off valves, and that deserves some explanation. Now, boost is the amount of pressure in air that the turbocharger forces into the engine. The more boost there is, the more power. But of course, that has to be regulated some way because most of the engines here at the Speedway use 45 inches of boost. Well, the way they do that is the pop-off valve. It's an instrument that's placed on the engine to limit the amount of boost in it. And Jack Arute takes a look at that system.
Probably the most important controlling device utilized in IndyCar racing is a pop-off valve. Now, a pop-off valve is mounted on every engine in competition, and it controls the amount of boost created by that engine. It's a simple mechanical device that's spring-loaded. Should an engine develop more boost than it's allowed by the rules, this valve will literally pop off, much like your pressure cooker would if it sat on the stove and created too much pressure. Now, every team brings their own pop-off valves to the Indianapolis 500. They give them to the USAC officials, and USAC presets them to the rules-mandated boost levels. If it's a specific racing engine, they're allowed 45 inches of boost. If you're a stock block derivative like the Buicks we see in competition, you're allowed 55 inches of boost. Now, sometimes you hear a team saying they got a bad valve. It wasn't really defective. What they were doing is working within the tolerances of this mechanical device. Officials tell us that these devices can monitor the boost levels to plus or minus 1/10 of an inch of boost. And in a sport where you're looking for an elusive 1,000th of a second, teams hope to get a valve that's on the plus side of that margin rather than on the minus side.
And that small measurement of boost can make a world of difference in a qualification run. You can bet the teams have a real good idea what each of those pop-off valves can do. Al Unser Jr., he's qualified into the field and has now already begun his practice for the 75th running of the Indianapolis 500. We'll be back.
Strike the Gold tries to strike it rich in his next test, the Preakness Stakes, live Saturday on ABC's Wide World of Sports.
The other big story of the month so far at Indianapolis is this man. Coming back from career-threatening injuries suffered at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Yesterday, he sat the car on the middle of the front row for the Indianapolis 500. And A.J. Foyt, for quite some time, you were the pole winner. You had the fastest speed. You retired to your backstretch suite out of turn number 2. What went through your mind as the day began to unfold and you saw that time holding up for the pole?
Well, you know, I felt like that we should have run at least 2 or 3 miles an hour faster, and the track got hot so quick, and you know, everything kind of went our way, and about time to start going our way. But all in all, you know, the crew worked hard, and we didn't really get to do the testing like we wanted to because, you know, I was trying to get ready just for Indy, and we didn't really start running until about Tuesday to Wednesday, and really about Wednesday when we started running fast, trying to get our speed up. Shook the car down Monday, so we can't really holler fast if we run in short notice like we did.
Now, we know historically that Rick Mears doesn't like to lead at the start of a race. Mario Andretti's on the outside of you. He's the question mark. If you get the opportunity, will you poke that thing to the front and try and lead a few laps here at the Indianapolis 500 at the beginning?
Well, you know, it's really hard to say. It's according to how we come down. Rick is the starter of the race, so by all rights and rules, he's the one that takes the green. He crosses the line first, and if my car is performing good and handling good and it don't endanger nobody or myself, I'll try to take the lead. But, you know, it's 500 miles. You don't win it on the first lap. And just, you know, whoever accelerates and whoever gets off be the one that lead it.
Paul, anybody that heard the ovation that this man received yesterday knows that he is indeed the king of Indianapolis, if not of all motorsports in America.
And surprisingly enough, one of his biggest fans is the pole sitter, Rick Mears. This was earlier today. Scott Brayton. Now watch carefully during his qualification run. The back end of the car got loose. He averaged 218.6 miles an hour, but Sam Posey, he could have done better.
Much better. Watch the bobble here in turn. This is turn 1 of lap 2. And our electronic scoring, and you'll see it again in slow motion. This is as close as you're ever going to get at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to a crash and not have one. He controls it superbly. But that cost him 2 miles an hour on that lap, 4 miles an hour on the next one because he was tentative, and at least one row.
Ari Leyendijk, the defending champion of the Indianapolis 500, carrying the number 1, marking that championship, went out for his qualification run. And it, like many of the cars that ran today, wasn't what they had hoped for, and wasn't the run on the first day as he would have liked. But finally, Ari Leyendijk into the field at 223.881 miles an hour for the center of the 5th row. He said that the conditions really didn't change much from yesterday.
Larry, you'd like to have had that time yesterday, but you had to settle for it today. What were the conditions today compared to yesterday?
I think it was still hot out there. The car in general lost just a little bit of grip, and I think it slowed us down. It, you know, of course, has to go a little slower through the corners, but I'm really happy with the performance. The car ran good, the handled good, and the crew just did a great job all month, and I think we'll be really strong on race day.
Could make the start a little bit of a concern, though, this year, wouldn't it?
No, not really. I think 5th row, that's not too bad for us. We can get through that real easy.
So with that run, Ari Leyendijk was in the field. The practice continues here. The track open for practice. Qualifiers that made it in today, there are 9 of them, and there they are. And of course, that spectacular run, the fastest so far, came from Gary Bettenhausen. Ari Leyendijk, you just saw, and Emerson Fittipaldi made it into the field as well. And in just a moment, we'll talk with Emerson Fittipaldi and take a look at his qualifying run. We'll be right back at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Here at the Speedway today, the saga of Emerson Fittipaldi continued. Remember that yesterday he waved off after 3 laps, run at 222.8 miles an hour. Today he went out to qualify, and there's some of the stats on that run. But when Fittipaldi made it into the field, he was in at 223.064 miles an hour. So Emerson Fittipaldi, who did not even approach the track record that he set here last year when he put that car on the pole, was in the field, and at that point, that's really all Fittipaldi and the Penske organization were looking for. The pole run that they had hoped for yesterday was gone. After his run, Fittipaldi compared yesterday against today.
Emerson, the first 3 laps today were slower than your first 3 laps yesterday.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed. The car went a little towards loose. Today, I think the track was different. This morning, I could not establish a handle on the car, and I had to back off at turn 4 the last 2 laps, and my speed went down.
Well, what did you think about the decision that was made yesterday after you had a fairly good run, in fact, a very good run going, and then you didn't take the checkered flag and you had to wait till today?
Well, I think we were trying to get the best, a good chance for pole late afternoon, and I think it was a team's decision, was a correct decision. Just the weather didn't help us.
Does it make any difference to you, though, at the start of the Indianapolis 500, whether you're on the front row or back there in 14th or 15th spot?
I think it makes a big difference.
What are your concerns?
Well, I think the high turbulence, you know, the drafting will be very high, and I mean, there'll be a lot of traffic, a lot of people, you know, trying to improve position. I think it'll be a very special Indy start, the first 10 laps, because of some of the quick cars behind. I think it'll make a special race.
Well, we'll be watching.
Okay.
So Emerson Fittipaldi, the 89 winner in the race. Here's the way they line up at the moment. Mears, Foyt, Mario Andretti, row 1. Row 2 is Bobby Rahal, Michael Andretti, Al Unser Jr. Back in the 3rd row, John Andretti, Jim Crawford in the Buick, and Danny Sullivan on the outside. The 4th row, Eddie Cheever, Jeff Andretti, and Scott Goodyear. Then the qualifiers that came in today, Gary Bettenhausen, Ari Leyendijk, Emerson Fittipaldi, Stan Fox, Mike Groff, Scott Brayton. And in the 7th row, Tony Bentonhausen, Bernard Jourdain, and Jeff Brabham. Now, you may have noticed there have been a number of accidents, all occurring coming off of the fourth turn, and that has the attention of a number of the safety officials here.
Well, Paul, as we look at some of these accidents, drivers today know that if you lose it in turn 4, the geometry of the walls that you hit leads you into the mouth of the entrance to the pits. See Gordon Johncock here. Its speeds have gone up. We've seen more and more cars actually striking the end of the pit wall. Which fortunately is a very sophisticated deformable structure. For the driver, the terrifying ride is like being inside a pinball machine. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway has always been in the forefront of track safety, and they have the will and obviously the means to make whatever changes are deemed necessary. The record here, no fatalities in the last 10 years, obviously speaks for itself. But racing is dangerous, and the entrances to pit lanes are hazardous at every track all over the world. The solution, if there is one, we will probably see it here first at Indianapolis.
You can rest assured at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the minute they see a situation like this, they start thinking about how they can make their racetrack safer. They're working on that project right now. Well, there's practice at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway right now. Don't forget, in 2 weeks, that's Sunday, May 26th, right here on ABC Sports. We'll all be back as the defending champion Arie Luyendyk tries to retain his title here at the greatest event in motorsports. That, of course, is the Indianapolis 500. Our coverage will begin in 2 weeks. Practice continues for the moment. There's another 2 days of time trials next weekend to fill out the 33 positions for the 75th running of the Indy 500. We'll see you on race day.
Coming up, ABC Sports presents top drivers as they battle it out in Formula One's premier event. It's the Grand Prix of Monaco. Next. The Indianapolis 500 Time Trials has been brought to you by Today Chevrolet, who invites you to see why more people are winning with the heartbeat of America. This has been a presentation of ABC Sports, recognized around the world as the leader in sports television.
A promotional fee has been paid to ABC by United Airlines. Come fly the friendly skies.
It's something big. You look pretty upset. It's a getting to you, isn't it?
No, not really.
Paul, I think his eyes tell you differently.
Little did AJ know that he would hold the pole position for much of the day, and at 56 years old, end up in the middle of the front row. Next on the track, Randy Lewis, who wouldn't make it into the field at all. He walked away unhurt from this crash in turn 1, but it ended his attempt to qualify on the first day. Rick Mears was luckier. 24 hours earlier during practice, he had crashed in almost the same place as Lewis. So when he came out to qualify yesterday, it was in his backup car. Still, Mears turned the fastest laps of the day, and at 10 minutes to 1, the pole position was his. A tremendous effect to the metabolism of this track when we have a day like today.
Well, it's very hard to generate that kind of qualifying day tension and excitement that a driver loves, basically thrives on. Look at today. No matter what you do, you can't run for the pole. That's officially over. So whatever you do in the car, no matter how fast you go, it's really a footnote to history. Hardly any crowd here. It's a very different atmosphere. But get in the car and drive fast, you must. And that's where the professionalism comes in, the drivers.
You saw it here just a few moments ago. Bernard Jourdain qualified into the field. The track is now open for practice, and there are people taking advantage of that. Bobby Unser, the kind of impact these days are making.
The following is a special presentation of ABC Sports.
Yesterday, Yesterday, the first day of time trials for the Indianapolis 500. A fast-moving storm closed the track early. Only 12 drivers had qualified by then, and those 12 names did not include last year's champion or pole sitter. The storm ended the hopes of a pole for Arie Luyendyk and Emerson Fittipaldi. The day had begun hopeful when A.J. Foyt, back from severe injury suffered last fall, turned 222.4 miles an hour. He was choked with emotion after qualifying for his 34th Indianapolis 500.
It's nothing big.
By then, the track surface was getting hot. Drivers and teams were hesitant to qualify in the heat, knowing that a cooler track meant faster times. Emerson Fittipaldi turned 3 quick laps at 222.8 miles an hour. Then car owner Roger Penske waved him off. They would take the gamble to wait until the track cooled. Other drivers pulled out of line. No one wanted to run in the heat. And then, it was too late for anyone to run at all. At 5:46 p.m., the track was officially closed. Rick Mears was on the pole for the 6th time in his Indy career. A.J. Foyt next to him. Luyendyk, Fittipaldi, and much of the rest of the field would have to wait until today. On this, the second day of time trials at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the weatherman has played a role. There have been some qualifications, and we're going to have all of the action for you from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Hello and welcome back. I'm Paul Page with Bobby Unser and Sam Posey. Sam,